Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 10 of the Fuck or Suck podcast. Today, we've got a very different kind of guest. Now, he's not someone that's just built a physique, but someone who has built a philosophy around how we think, act, and also show up. He's been a massive inspiration for me over the years. He's ex-military. He's got a world record in box jumping Mount Everest, and he is also a published author. And he's someone that has built an entire brand around one thing, getting people out of their own way and, living healthier, happier, fitter and stronger, as he likes to say himself. Now, this is a man who believes your results are dictated by how you think, not what you know. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to our very special guest today, Mr. Jay Alderton. How are you, brother?
Mr. West, what an introduction, and thank you ever so much. Excited to be chatting or continuing our chat. We were chatting for about half an hour before. We was like, right, we best press record on this because all the gold dust is going.
Mate, before we get into anything, as I said that, I just want to know, box jump at Mount Everest, that is one hell of a feat. What kind of mindset does it take? How long did you train for to box jump Mount Everest?
So it takes a neurodivergent mindset. I will give it that. One of the things that I realised that I was really good at is compartmentalising things down in my brain, breaking things down, and understanding one thing that I think is important in everything in life, and it is the SAID principle. And SAID stands for specific adaptation to imposed demands. Now, life is very counterintuitive, and something that I say to people all the time is the reason that your life is so difficult is because you are avoiding difficult things. And actually, when you expose yourself to difficult things, things become easier. Hence the whole point of my book, and its title, Hard Stuff, Easy Life. Now, if you were to tell me to box jump Mount Everest right now, it would absolutely break me, because it's been, I think, 7 years since I broke that record. But I remember when I first started training, which was around 10 months before I actually did the event, and I did my first hour-long box jump. And I remember saying to myself, you fucking idiot. What the fuck have you said you're going to do? And I was just like, right. Oh, you've put yourself in the absolute shit now. You've just gone and told millions of people online that you're going to attempt to set this record that no human being has done before, probably because it's a stupid idea. And the reason that it's not been set yet is because most people will get something like rhabdo or some really debilitating injury even attempting it. And you said that you're going to do it. But we've committed to it now. So all I did was start to build up that hour until it became a lot more comfortable, which took about 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, okay, that first hour on the box versus that first hour on the box 3 weeks later was much easier. Then I went to 2 hours, then 3, then 4. And over the months, I started to build up these sessions up to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. I was trying other training around it that was kind of specific to building up the gas tank, and it was very much about rest and recovery. So the speed in which you can jump on the box versus the time which you recover in the minute before going again. Now, to obviously get the box jump world record, I would have had to have box jumped 10 box jumps a minute on a 2-foot box every minute for 24 hours straight. Now, of course, that is absolutely bonkers. And I needed to make sure that I needed to get it under, because the record was, the cutoff point from Guinness was 24 hours. So I said, right, I need to make sure that I can do it in 22. And I also kind of need rest periods as well. So, if it's 10 box jumps a minute for an hour, I need to do 15 box jumps an hour, because if I do that, I can do the hour's worth of box jumps in 50 minutes, and then I can have a 10-minute break every hour to kind of refresh, reset, and go again. So I ended up building up to 8 hours, and something that I always say with any kind of endurance event is if you can do something for 8 hours comfortably, you can do something for 24 hours uncomfortably. And it wasn't my first rodeo. with the box jump. 2 years before, I'd run backwards for 24 hours. And the year before that, I'd pushed a 140 kilogram sled for 24 hours. So
Was the
I was
backwards for
used.
24 hours? That wasn't a Guinness World Record, was it, or was it?
I missed out by 8 minutes. So
Fuck.
we were looking to, yeah, we were looking to break multiple world records. It was the longest distance ran in 24 hours. It was the quickest time to run 100 kilometers backwards. And that was the one that I missed by 8 minutes. Weirdly, someone can run 100 kilometers faster than I can, which is probably one human being on the planet that has managed it and still holds that record. But for me, the most important thing was doing it for 24 hours and raising as much money as possible for charity. And we raised £26,000 for my local children's charity for that. So that was the real big win for that. But I'd always had this itching because the last two endurance events, yes, they were for charity, but we'd tried to break a Guinness World Record for two of them and not been successful. And a lot of it was trying to beat other people's already set records. So then we decided what hasn't been done before, and that happened to have been the box jump Mount Everest. We decided to register that with Guinness. They gave us, when you register something new, you chat to Guinness, they create, they give you...
Can you just come up with whatever the fuck you want? So if you want to just come up with...
Yeah. You
most
can
energy drinks drunk in 24 hours.
Yep. You can go, if you go onto the Guinness website and you click on search, you can type it in, and if it's a new one, you can apply for it. There is a kind of pay-to-play thing on Guinness that if you apply for it, it will take them up to 12 weeks to get back to you. But if you pay some money, it'll take 2 weeks to get back. So it's worth paying to play, and that's what we did. We set it, and then it takes a little bit of time for someone to go, okay, you've got to have this record, but in order for you to set that record, it also has to be beatable too. So there needs to be rules around it. So, if somebody else decides that they want to try and beat your record, there needs to be like this, 6-page sheet that they can go, right, in order to beat Jay's record, you need to do this, this, this. And of course, what they set for me was that you needed 3 witnesses. The box needed to be measured before on camera. It needed to be within a 24-hour period, and we needed to upload all the footage with the witness statements. For everything, it's really, really difficult to get a world record, Guinness World Record, because I think it took us 8 months of back and forth with Guinness to actually get the actual certificate because of them wanting additional witness statements and footage. And
especially something that's so long like that over a 24-hour period. Like, I'm just looking at some of the stupidest Guinness World Records here, because when you said that, I was like, I wonder what some of the stupidest ones are. Like, this lady's, put in for her tongue to be able to touch her elbow from her mouth or some shit. I don't know. It's just like, and the most cockroaches eaten in 1 minute. Most socks put on in 30 seconds. Like, they're pretty easy because they're short ones, but your one's like a 24-hour box jump. Like, they've got to watch the whole lot of the footage, right? Every jump.
Yeah, I realised that I could have picked an easier one in hindsight.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been as cool.
Exactly. And for me, I got the buzzer from doing these endurance challenges back when I did the sled push, and I realised that, if I was to go to my audience and say, hey, I'm running a 10K run, can you sponsor me? Most people go, fuck off, Jay. 10K, well, why am I going to sponsor you for that? So in order to get people to put their, get their wallets out and pay, it needs to be insane, because the outcome-based goal for it is to scratch the weird itch that I have with regards to pushing the boundaries physically, but utilising that to benefit other people by raising as much money as possible for my local children's charity. And that really is the ultimate kind of hack I've found for these endurance challenges, because when you make it about other people instead of yourself, you find this new energy to keep pushing. And I definitely found that with the box jump, because just as I was going to do the box jump, all the kids from the children's charity, they'd drawn me this massive card. And this is a charity that works with life limited children. So a lot of these kids aren't going to see adult, a lot of them will be gone by 17. And they'd drawn me this card, all the kids, of this giant mountain of Mount Everest and everything. And I remember seeing the card thinking, fuck, I've got to do this now. Fuck, that's a lot of pressure. But I remember I was really struggling about 10 hours in. And I remember going across the other side of where I was, grabbing a chair, putting it next to the box, getting this massive fucking card, putting it on the chair so I could just stare at it every minute to say, this is fucking painful, this is horrible. But also these kids are, you're so fucking lucky that you're able to experience this pain in your 30s. Because these kids who have drawn you this card are not going to be here. So stop fucking whinging, stop complaining about how difficult this is, and get it done. And mindset to me is the most important thing, and putting your head in the game of whatever it is that you're playing is super, super important. And that enabled me just to grab something from somewhere and just push on. And I was very lucky that I did, because I see people during that, any kind of exercise, whether it be a marathon or something that's ultra endurance, you're going to be at this crossroads where your brain will convince you this is it now. We are not going to continue. This is stupid. No one will think anything less of you from doing it. It's amazing what your brain convinces you to do when it's uncomfortable and it's clambering for comfort. And you've got to learn to bypass that and say, shut the fuck up. It's not about us. It's about something else. And weirdly enough, an hour later, I was back in the game.
That's hectic. Now, not many people are box jumping Mount Everest because it's just too far out of mind. But if we're to scale that right back and just think about people that are trying to live, like you like to say, healthier, happier, fitter and stronger, like most people know what to do. They know they should be eating healthy. They know that they shouldn't be smoking. They should be sleeping longer, reducing stress. But one part of this question is, why the fuck aren't they doing it? And is it actually a mindset problem, or do you think it's people avoiding responsibility?
I love this quote by Robin Sharma. He says, not doing is the same as not knowing. So knowledge isn't anything unless you apply it. And I'm always aware of that. And the worst thing, you might have people listening to this, and even yourself, Matt, have spoken to people and they go, yeah, I know that. And it's a cop-out, because it's like, yeah, of course you do. But knowledge without application is absolutely nothing. So just knowing that who gives a shit? So it's... The next thing that I see with a lot of people is that they forget that, small things compounded over time turn to big things. And that's from a good point of view and a bad point of view. If you start doing a good, healthy habit, multitude of times, it's amazing how big that becomes. I always have this as this one chapter in a day analogy. Lots of people, they want to read all the books, especially in January. And I always get this of, Jay, what are your 30 best books to change my life? And I could give that person those 30 books. And the chances are in January, new year, new me, they'll probably get 4 read. Now, wow, this is amazing. My life is going to change. Then February comes and, they go down to 1 book, which is still impressive because they've read that 1 book. 5 books down, 25 to go. March, a little bit stressed with work. Kids are doing my head in. So I've managed to get half a book read, which isn't too bad. And you find this with a lot of people. As the year goes on, they managed 5 books, but they didn't do anything the last kind of 6 months. And, they feel like a failure, because although they started off the year well, they finished the year exactly the same. And if I said to that person, right, all I want you to do is make a commitment to reading 1 chapter a day, that's it. Just 1 chapter. That's your commitment, 10 minutes a day, get it done. Now, most books I'd recommend are about 11 to 12 chapters, most self-development books. So the chances are, if you made that 1 chapter commitment a day, the books that I'd recommend, you'd probably get 34 of them read within a year. And it's because you chunked it down into small, manageable, bite-sized pieces. And it's the compound effect of that inevitably changed your life. Now, what I'm talking about here is not just books, it's everything else. People don't value doing 10 push-ups because it's just too easy and it only takes 10 seconds, so they don't do it. But 10 push-ups done over a year is the equivalent volume of a Boeing 747 jet going through your chest. So you ask yourself, well, if I can put a Boeing 747 through my chest in 10 seconds a day, I could probably do that with my back, I could probably do that with my legs, and I could probably do that with my steps and movement too. It's not going to be noticeable in a day, in a week, in a month, but over a year, it could change your life. And that's always what I'm getting people to think of, is that stop overcomplicating shit, and those small things done consistently turn to big things over time. And a good friend of mine, Sahil Bloom, said this great quote. He said, anything above 0 compounds. And I absolutely love that, because doing a little bit of something every day with patience, with consistency, changes your life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we create these belief systems, in our younger years a lot of the time through childhood, adolescence, those types of things, right? When it comes to belief systems and changing them and being able to determine belief system versus excuses, like which comes first, and how the fuck do people control these and know when to pivot and how to pivot from those two things, being belief systems and excuses?
I think it's calling out your own bullshit. And I think this is such an important thing. There's so many different practices that I do with a lot of clients and do with myself. I will normally get accountability from others because I perform better in front of an audience, because I have this vision of who I want to be seen in front of other people, which then causes me to do the work that I know I need to do. And it's the same with a lot of people. If I do things by myself, I can very easily convince myself to skip it. So accountability, as Bob Proctor says, is the glue that ties the commitment to the result. For me, that's super, super important. You need people around you to call you out on your bollocks. We've heard these quotes before of you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and a great one that I have actually put on the front of my studio here from Daniel Priestley: environment dictates performance. You hang around with 5 people who have negative belief systems, who are lazy, who skip things, you will be one of those people. If you have guys around you and people around you who are getting it every day, who are reflecting, who are wanting to better themselves, who are holding themselves to a higher standard, you will hold yourself to a higher standard. So a lot of the time you think about those things, you think about who you're spending your time with, and then kind of a brutal thing is you ask yourself, is what I think getting me where it is that I need to be? And if the answer is no, then that belief needs to be changed.
What's the first step someone needs to take to kind of see their subconscious mind and be able to call themselves out on their own bullshit? Because, in a conscious state, a lot of people say, I need to do that, but they never get around to it. So in your mind, what's one thing that someone can do right now to be able to make themselves more aware of their subconscious?
So very simple practice, pen and paper out, and it's kind of 3 questions. Where I currently am, where I want to be, and what's stopping me from getting there. Now, these 3 questions are without a doubt the most important, and they're also the 3 things that people avoid. First one, where am I currently? This is the reason why people don't check their bank balance, because they don't want to know that they're skint. This is why people don't jump on the scale, because they don't want to know that they're overweight. And ignorance is bliss, but it's not. It's absolute fucking pain and torture that starts to get worse and worse as you start to stop doing the work. And even worse, the people who do the work start to really piss you off. So the first thing that we need to do is go, where am I currently? And this could be from a business point of view, this could be from a fitness point of view, this could be from anything that at the moment you are unhappy about. So let's be honest, let's write down where we currently are. From a health point of view, that might be, what's my current weight? What's my diet look like? What does my steps look like on a scale of 1 to 10? How stressed and pissed off am I on a daily basis? And then, of course, the next one is, where do I want to be? So let's get some specifics down. If we said, right, I'm currently at this weight, I think I'd be great at this weight, or I'd love to get down to that weight. I'm currently 9 out of 10 on the stressometer, and I'd like to wake up and not be pissed off with the world. And then the next important question is, what's stopping you from getting there? So it's being honest. That what I would say is reflect on the last year about all the times that you tried and what was the thing that stopped you from getting to where it is, where you want to be. Because this is the massive thing, is understanding where those roadblocks are. It could be the people around you. It could be where it is that you're living. It could be your mindset. It could be a partner. It could be a number of things. If it's just in your head and not down on a piece of paper, you can't understand what it is, and you can't go through different processes to try and improve and overcome those hurdles.
Fucking interesting. So if anyone's saying that they need to get into their subconscious or is willing to be able to do it, because you've got to be willing to be able to do it, right? Because a lot of people, as I said, they say that they will, or I should do that. It's like stretching, right? People say I should be stretching, but they never get around to it. So you need to take out the pen and the paper. You can't just write it down in your notes. Like, take a pen, take a paper out, and actually put in the effort to do it, because it's all well and good, like Jay said, if it's up in the old noggin, but if it's never out, if you don't put it out there to the universe, then it's never going to change. I mean, people's core beliefs, man, like people are stuck with core beliefs that they develop over time through experiences, relationships, business, work, whatever it may be. Like, how does someone change what they believe they thought was right their entire life? How the fuck does someone change that?
You've got to want to change it, and I think this is the most important thing. You've got to challenge what it is that you think is true. And a great quote from a friend of mine is, thoughts aren't reality, reality is not your thoughts. I believe that's the right way. Or reality is not your thoughts, thoughts are not reality. And we tend to think a certain thing and then it happens. You know, it's this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy and this kind of vicious circle that if you think that the world is out to get you, you will wake up and you will find reasons to believe that that thing is true, and then that will solidify that that thing is true, and then it becomes a belief. And I think this is such an important thing, because I've spoken to, you know, as you do, Matt, I speak to lots of people every single day. And sometimes when I speak to people in person, I'm like, you honestly think that the world is against you? You know, when I speak to this person, all they're talking about is how shit something is, how bad something is, how this thing is this. And I'm like, it's very hard to get out of that if you just think that there is no hope for you. And so many people gravitate towards what's shit in the world instead of looking at how many fucking opportunities there are. And there really, really is so many if you're willing to look at it. And there's this amazing thing that your brain does. It's called the reticular activating system. And I remember when my wife became pregnant that I started to see pregnant women everywhere. I was like, fucking hell, there's loads of pregnant women everywhere. And then I realised there was always loads of pregnant women around. It's just I wasn't aware of it because my wife wasn't pregnant. I remember when I was looking to buy a new car, and then suddenly I see that car everywhere. And I'm like, fucking hell, everyone's got this car. And it's like, no, your just brain is more wired to do those things. So when we know that this is true, when we have this reticular activating system, what I tend to look at when I'm around and you know, when I'm walking around, when I'm doing things, I'm looking at all the good things that are going on instead of all the bad things that are happening. And when I go and search for all the good shit, all the opportunities, it's funny how I find them. However, if I'm walking around looking for how shit the world is, how bad things are, this, that, and the other, not only do I see it on the outside world, I see it on the inside world too. Because you've got to understand that every day, the average person's spending, 4-5 hours a day on their phone. And most of that is on social media. Now, how social media works with the algorithm is it's very smart. It's not trying to show you shit. It's trying to show you more of what you're already looking at. So if you are looking at shit, if you're looking at news, drama, bullshit, or proof that the world is bollocks, the algorithm doesn't know what it is that you are thinking or feeling. It's not going to go, that person's got a negative mindset, I'm going to show them some positive stuff. It's going to go, you like car explosions, war, arguments. Guess what? As soon as you jump back onto your algorithm, here you go, here you go, here you go. However, if I'm looking at good shit online, if I'm telling the newsfeed that I don't want to see that shit, I want to see more of that shit, and it's all good stuff, the next time I jump on social media, it's like, you like all this inspirational stuff, you like all this business how-to stuff, you like all these philosophical quotes. There you go, Jay. And all of a sudden, I'm like, the fucking world is awesome because the algorithm is working for me instead of against me. And I'm not just talking about this, online algorithm. I'm talking about this algorithm for your mind on the outside as well. That if you are continually reflecting on the wins for the week, this is what I do with my guys, reflect on the wins, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, you are reprogramming your mind to see the good in everything. And that completely changes the way that you see the world and the way that you approach the world too. And some people
a lot of
think
the
this
time,
is...
sorry to cut you off there, but a lot of the time it's who we surround ourselves with, like you said, right? And if we've been brought up around negativity through our parents, our peers, our friends, or whatever, it's like whichever circle you are around is going to be a direct reflection. And a lot of people, what would you say to someone that says, oh, but you know, I've only got negative people around me, or you know, they might have a partner that's negative. Like, what is the big move there?
Communication is key. I think one of the biggest things when people say that to me is, have you sat down and spoken to them about this? So before we make some drastic change to change our partner, to change our friend circle, have you ever sat down and actually had this conversation with them? Or are you afraid that you're going to look weak and pathetic from sitting down and having a real conversation? And if you do have that conversation and that person isn't willing to listen, you know, what we have to understand is that we're sitting down with the people that we love, that are closest to us, that care about us. So if we are in some kind of mindset that we're unhappy about, if these people are who they say they are, the people who love, care and respect us, they should really empathise and understand with where we are. And in actual fact, that might cause them to open up themselves and improve that relationship. If, however, you sit down and they're taking the piss out of you, they doing anything with that regard, that's also great news, because you've just found that they are not your people and something needs to change there. Because if I ever sat down with a friend and said, you know, I found, and I do this with, I've actually had an example of this last week. I went for a walk with my friend. We had this really deep discussion on the world. We go for a walk, we solve most of the world's problems just by having a little bickering and an argument. And you know, I got a text the next day going, look, I'm really sorry, I think I overstepped the line when we spoke about that. I didn't give you the time to explain why you thought that. And just having that message the next day showed that I had the right friends within my circle, because they allowed to reflect on things, to understand other people's point of view. And even though it doesn't change their opinion, they really valued the friendship that we created there. And if that sounds like, oh my God, I've never had a friend like that, I've never had people like that, it's up to you to go and find those people, because they are there, you're just not looking for them. So it's not an easy thing to do, but a lot of people talk about the environment and everything else like this. I live on the south coast of England, where one of my friends said, isn't that where old people go to die? There are no entrepreneurs around me. There's no business people. There's no big opportunities. You know, I'm in a very sleepy seaside town where most people struggle to get a job, etc., etc., etc. And I've lived there my entire life and absolutely fucking love living by the sea. How I changed my mindset was things that I was listening to in my ears through podcasts, through audio books, through everything there. They were my mentors. They were allowing me to change what I thought about myself and the world. So yes, environment does dictate performance. It can improve it. But if you are saying to yourself, well, you know, I'm in a really shit environment, there's no one around me, find those people. This is also the beautiful thing about the internet, because you can find like-minded people, communities, groups of people that just want more for their lives.
At the start of this podcast, I said that you're a massive inspiration to me. I don't think giving you enough credit, brother. I mean, you know, I think I started your video mastery course back in 2019. You were actually the person who got me to secure my username on TikTok to be Road to Aesthetics and not Matt West _ Road to Aesthetics on Instagram, right? So, man, I just want to thank you, because you were that guy in that little seaside town, and I was, you know, in the time, I think I was living in Townsville, North Queensland in Australia. So, not by any means, not a you know, successful place where a massive amount of, you know, large creators come out of, but it just goes to show you can surround yourself with people not even in your physical proximity if you know where to look and if you don't give up.
What you said there is the second thing that separates you from a lot of other people, Matt, and it's that the power of showing up regardless of how you feel. You know, a lot of people will ask me, what discipline is, and it's exactly that. When people look at discipline, they look at soldiers, they look at firefighters, they look at these people who can't set a foot wrong. That's not what discipline is. Discipline is having the same feelings as everybody else. I can't be fucked with this. It isn't working. This is pointless. And then doing it anyway. That is the difference. A lot of people allow their mood to dictate what it is that they do. They rely on motivation and feeling like doing something to get it done. And that's why they can't get where it is that they need to be. Because it's not about doing it when you feel like doing it. It's about doing it regardless of how you feel.
I love it. I love it. And one of the big things that you've helped me out personally, Jay, is your metaphors. I've definitely become more of a metaphoric person and someone that relies on, what would you say? What are the other cool metaphors? You call them like
Analogies
are really good.
Yeah, stories and analogies. I have a neurotypical brain. It works in patterns and frameworks, stories and analogies. So I'm able to pull information and understanding from those kind of things. And what's been amazing is that's how I know my brain works. That's how I remember things. That's how I share things. And when I started doing that online, it was amazing to see how other people found, that I try and turn very complex subjects into bite-sized things. And I always call it drawing in crayons. And one of the main reasons being for that was I haven't got any qualifications at all. I failed school. I scraped a college certification because I spent more time getting pissed at the pub. And I need to have things dumbed down for me to truly understand it. And what I realized years later that's the same for everybody. If you can't take a complex subject down and be able to teach it to a 6-year-old, then you don't truly understand that subject yourself.
I found a lot of these things really help during the motivation low times for me as well. Like I'll just be able to pull a quote, a phrase, a metaphor or something like that just to help me get going. You know what I mean? Like if I'm ever feeling like I just cannot get it done. There was a couple of Saturdays ago where I just didn't want to go to the gym. I knew I needed to get it done. And, I just had Jocko Willing saying discipline equals freedom. It's like, you got to fucking go. And just that little short phrase was enough for me to get my shit together and show up that day. And, it might not be the same for everyone, but these things can really be great triggers to keep you consistent and to keep you disciplined.
Yeah, 100%. I have lots of different, I think the two...
Have you got a top three, Jay? Have you got a top three that you would... it's case dependent, right? Because it depends on what you're talking about and what you're trying to achieve. But has there been... Yeah. So metaphors are longer than like proverbs, right?
Yeah, ones that work... I call them essentially like kind of frameworks or mental models. Like, I first learned the word mental model from a guy called Shane Parrish, who has a podcast called Farnham Street. And I was like, what are these mental models? And they're basically like frameworks that allow you to understand things. And that's exactly how my brain works. Everything needs to be steps, frameworks, the lot. I think a lot of people on any kind of neurodiverse spectrum has the same kind of thing. And the ones that are working for me at the moment, especially with regards to longevity and consistency, is I always have this thought process of that there is always two men in a cloud looking at me. The one man in the cloud is saying to the other guy, I told you he was going to quit. I told you he wasn't who you thought he was. And the other guy says, he is. We just need to put him through these tests to see if he is. And it's this constant argument between these two guys that one doesn't believe in me and wants to prove to the other guy that, I'm full of shit. And the other guy keeps putting me through all these tests to basically prove to him that he's full of shit. And the only person that can create that outcome is me. So I'm always like thinking when shit hits the fan, when something really bad happens, that they're having that conversation, and I'm with the other guy who wants to test me and make sure that I'm that kind of person. I'm always looking up at that guy going, fuck you and thank you. So that's my kind of mental model, that fuck you and thank you is work wonders for me. The other one for my longevity is the 70-year-old self. And what I always imagine is that I have this magical mirror that I can look into it, and my reflection is of that 70-year-old self. And I always ask myself, what I'm doing right now, if I'm having this conversation with my 70-year-old self, is he thanking me for what it is that I'm doing, or is he wanting to jump through the glass and punch me in the nose? Because the reality is, I'm 40 now. In 30 years' time, the things that I do now will directly affect that 70-year-old self. And the worst thing that could happen is if I look in that mirror and there is no reflection. And that is a real thing to ponder, because there's lots of things outside of your control. Yes, something bad could happen that is outside of my control, hence why there's nobody in the mirror. But my decisions that I make right now with regards to my health, regards to my physical and mental health, my habits and routines directly affect in 30 years' time how that person in the mirror is going to look and feel. And what's bonkers is I was reading a report that comes out from the NHS, which is our National Health Service, and it does this, of course, this report that says it basically takes every person who's been registered dead in the UK. It sounds somber as fuck, but go with me. And it breaks down the percentage of how they died. So a lot of it is cardiovascular disease, a lot of it is cancer. But the overall summary for the last 2 years is a high percentage of people are dying from things that can be preventable with lifestyle choices and changes. So that solidifies my mindset with regards to this 70-year-old self, that to me is the most important thing. Do I decide to go for the pizza, or do I decide to go for the healthy food? Sometimes it might be the pizza. Sometimes a 70-year-old self says that was a good choice then because you were stressed as fuck. That allowed you to chill out, and that allowed you to, relax and see things from a different perspective. But other times it could have been that was a great decision to go for the healthy choice then, because that would have set you back a couple of days. You don't know what you don't know, but just having that frame of mind of going, will I make my future self proud, really keeps me on track, especially with young kids as well.
Yeah, obviously you gave up the alcohol now, what is it, 18 months ago, more than that?
Yeah, 100%. I always say the first thing to change when someone stops alcohol is not them, it's their Instagram bio. So I've been trying to be that non-preachy type person when it comes to it.
Yeah.
But
You were someone that never had a problem with alcohol. I mean, you enjoyed a drink, and sometimes when you did, you used to like to indulge, but you weren't someone that, was an alcoholic. Or would you call yourself a binging alcoholic, or how would you label yourself?
So it's not until you take it out of your life that you realise some of the issues that you had with it that you didn't believe were an issue with it. Funny that you should say that. I spent half an hour trying to find a reel back about 3 years ago where I said that I'm not going to give up alcohol because alcohol is fine in moderation. And it got hundreds of thousands of views and lots of angry people in the DMs and in the comments because I told my audience that I like a drink in moderation. But deep down, there was a lot of things that I realised about my habits and routines. The way that my brain works, I'm a stickler for routine. So if that routine is good, there's a reason that I've been going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week since the age of 13, because it's my routine, not because I'm special or anything else like that. It's been a fundamental part of my life, which has been a beneficial one, because 27 years later, I'm reaping the benefits now. I started posting on social media back in 2011, and I haven't missed a post. I've missed 2 weeks in 15 years. It's not because I'm special, it's just because I started this routine. So these positive things with regards to routine have been great, but I also have a really bad routine with alcohol. And what it was is that I'd have the most stressful week, and then I didn't care because Friday I'd have a couple of whiskeys, I'd have a bottle of wine with the missus, and I could finally decompress from the week. And then I'd, on a Saturday, pretty much do the same as well. And then Sunday, I'm hoping that we would go somewhere to have a Sunday roast so I could have a bottle of wine and maybe a pint of beer. And I also found that if I'm going out somewhere, that I would strategically plan in my head where it is that we need to go so I could get as much alcohol in as humanly possible before the night ends. And even so much so if I'm going home, I'd have a glass of wine to myself or a beer before I go to bed, because I knew that I probably wouldn't be allowed to have alcohol in the next day because I've got shit to do, or it'd look a bit weird drinking a beer, say at 10 o'clock in the morning. So you don't realise you really have an issue until you realise, shit, that's not normal, that you like a drink, and when you do have a drink, you take the piss with that drink. And for me, one of the main changing points was Christmas 2024. I always drink a lot over Christmas. And by drink a lot, I mean 2 weeks, pretty much every day. I don't go to the gym, don't train. I use it as my downtime. I call it my kind of downtime, where I just spend time with the kids, play video games, watch loads of Christmas movies, and pretty much start drinking from like 4 p.m. I'll text a mate, say, hey, it's Christmas. You're coming down the pub, have a couple of pints there, and just carry it on in the evening. And I got to a stage, Christmas 2024, where I was doing that, and I just downloaded this new app on my watch called Stress Watch, and you might have heard it actually. I've been trying to strategically sleep it down, which I'll do now.
Why are you so stressed? Chill out. You're on the Fuck or Suck podcast, man.
It's saying, Joe, it's saying now, you can't see this, but it says great. It says my heart rate variability at the moment is, as you can see, it's like you can't see, but it says it's great. So what I downloaded was this thing called Stress Watch, which normally I have it on sleep, so apologies. But every 6 minutes it measures my heart rate variability. And I gave up drinking for 8 weeks before Christmas, because I normally do my Santa shred before Christmas, and I did it 2 weeks before and the 6 weeks. And it kept pinging like it did there. Great. Whatever you're doing, keep doing. Great. And then Christmas came, and then I'd get the drink and the alcohol back in. I'd be sitting there watching a Christmas movie, and every 6 minutes I'd get the bing, and it would say overload. And I'm like, I'm watching fucking Jingle All the Way. And it's like overload. Whatever you're doing now,
you're feeling all buzzed out because the alcohol, like you're feeling good, and it's telling you it's not good.
It's like whatever you're doing now, stop. You're highly stressed. The only time it does that, or did that during the 8 week period, was when I was doing high intensity training at the gym. So although I felt most relaxed, having a few beers, feeling good, justifying it because I need to have this downtime, my watch is saying whatever you're doing, it's your stress is going through the roof and it's slowly killing you. And just that realization of that 2 weeks of dings of telling me stop fucking doing whatever you're doing was like, right, I think this needs to go, because it's no longer serving me anymore. It's giving me anxiety, it's giving me overwhelm, it's giving me all of these things which I keep ignoring, and finally I need to change. And I'm done with the excuses of that, because my justification for carrying on drinking was I've achieved everything I've done in my life. I've done these Guinness World Records, I've written all these books and done all these things whilst drinking. So fuck you, basically. It's like I can do all the things. It's like no, you did all of that whilst drinking, having anxiety, having overwhelm, sometimes having a massive headache the next day and feeling like shit and eating shit, and you still managed to do it. Well done, you. But you could have had life on a bit easier mode. And of course the last 18 months it has been. Since I've stopped drinking, I haven't had any anxiety. It's like, Jesus Christ, that was the answer. I haven't been overwhelmed. My energy's been through the roof. My performance with the gym and with jiu-jitsu has been phenomenal. And my head is a lot more clear and focused, obviously. But it's like what we always say is that we know what we need to do, but knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. And even
one thing I want to ask you off that, man, is like, I'm sure since your 18 months of sobriety, you've had times where you've been like, oh, I'll just have a bottle of wine on a Friday night, or I could really get into the pub and just have a couple of pints with the boys, like, because you've got it under control now, right? So I want to kind of relate this to the listener when it comes to, obviously this is an extreme where you're not having it at all, but like when someone's trying to lose weight and then they're like, reward themselves with the pizza, or it may be the beers, not to say they're trying to give up alcohol, but for someone battling these demons or the reward system of I'm okay now, like how do you get through that? Or has it happened, or have you just been like, nah, don't feel like it anymore?
So one of the things that I think about this a lot, and there's two kind of obviously analogies and things that I'll give you with this, and it's these two things. The first one is nostalgia. I love 90s shit. You know, when people say, oh, remember MSN Messenger? You know, Be Right Back, ASL. Do you remember Napster, where you could download Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give It Up, and you ended up giving your family computer AIDS? They were the good times, right? They were amazing times. They were like, oh, I wish I could go back there. But there was also really shit things that going on and lack of opportunities, because although you had Napster and this, that and the other, you didn't have all the opportunities that you have now. You didn't have the ability to build millions of followers on Instagram and create a business of, you know, and all of these kind of stuff. So we tend to romanticize singular events. And I do this with alcohol. I'm like, do you know what, Jay, wouldn't it be nice to go on holiday in the sun and have a couple of glasses of wine with the wife, just two, and then go for a walk on the beach, and it all be great? Because it's very easy to be nostalgic and romanticize single episode occasions. What we tend to forget is all of the shit that came with making those decisions. Because I know for me, it's not just a couple of drinks. It's now accepting that we can drink alcohol and then finding a way that we're going to put a routine with it in our lives. So if I'm going to have a couple of glasses on holiday, I'm going to say, right, okay, so we're only going to drink on special occasions. Great. What's a special occasion? Okay, so we're not going to drink at home, but we're going to drink at weddings and birthdays and this. Okay, that's our rule. And then I'm gravitating and waiting for people to have birthdays or getting invited for weddings and getting
You'd be like Vince Vaughn on Wedding Crashers, bro.
Yeah, I'm like this. And I'm not like this because I've got a wedding to go to or seeing my friends. I'm like this because I'm going to get fucking pissed. And this is the one thing that I found that my brain does. When I turned 40 last year, and all my schoolmates turned 40. So guess what? Everyone had 40 birthday parties. Now, I used to love birthday parties and that. Why? Because I get to go to the pub, to have lots of drinks, everyone else is drinking, and I don't feel the odd one that goes a bit too hard on the booze. But last year, of course, I'm going to all these birthday parties, including my own, and not drinking. And actually going, I'm really excited for going to these things. Why? Because I get to see my old school friends and catch up. And even better, they'll have some drinks and I get to drive them home. And it was something that I realised that I was more, like with alcohol, I cared more about going to places to get pissed than I did actually enjoying my time with the people around there. And I even remember saying to my friend, he said, do you want to go to the pub? And I said, no, I'm not drinking. He goes, well, you can go to the pub and not drink. And I said to him, what's the fucking point in that? And he was like, oh, I don't know. We could catch up and have a conversation. And I said, oh, we can do that at a coffee shop though. So it's amazing that how 20 years of drinking, and of course it was a big drinking culture. I was in the army for 7 years, so everything involved alcohol, that carried on to everything in my life. So do I think about all these good times and romanticize about it? I do. It's my brain remembering the good times. But it's okay to remember the good times and still not want to go back to those good times. And I think that's one of the things I'm realizing now, that you can romanticize something and reflect on it and be nostalgic, but not want to do something about it. Just have it as a good feeling and then carry on with your decisions.
So you're pretty confident it's done for good now? Like you never go back?
Yeah, I would say that I still, at least once a week, romanticize about it, think about it.
What happens, hypothetical question, like what happens if your son grows up and he really wants to have a beer with dad? What happens?
Yeah, well, I've got 12 years
I'm sure you
to think
thought about that.
I have thought about that. But one of the things that I realise is that, this generation aren't even thinking about alcohol.
True that.
I think this report this week said that 1,000 restaurants and pubs in the UK closed last year because no one was drinking anymore. And no one's going to clubs. And I genuinely believe that the culture is changing around alcohol. I don't see many kids like we were in our teens sitting on the park benches drinking cider. And of course, a lot of this has to do with social media. I think that, I'm so glad that we didn't have social media when we were kids, because, the things that would have been uploaded that we got up to as kids would have probably had me arrested by now. But I think as well that stops a lot of people from letting their hair down and enjoying themselves, this fear of it being documented and put online. And I think that kids are genuinely concerned and worried about that. So they don't let themselves go as much as we did.
And the other thing is too, if your son, if he knows that dad's never been drinking or he hasn't drunk for a lot of years, why the fuck would he want to have a beer with dad? Because he knows he doesn't drink, right?
Yeah, 100%. And for me, Archer's 6 right now, and the whole 70-year-old self-reflection, I always think, okay, cool, I'm 41 this year, my son's 7 this year. What do I want to do with my son at 17? I was like, oh, cool. I'd like to go and say to her, well, I was going to say High Rocks, probably not. Tough Mudder or something. But it's like, okay, I'd like to do something with my son. And I'm like, cool, Jay, you're going to be 51. I was like, yeah, I'm going to absolutely destroy my son at 17. His dad's built different. I'm like, okay, 27. What are you going to do with your son at 27? I'm like, how old am I going to be? 61. Nah, I'm gonna still destroy my son at 61, 62. He ain't going to be able to keep up with this old boy. And then when I have these thought processes, which, slightly comedic but slightly true, I then ask myself, well, what do I need to do in the next 10 to 20 years to ensure that little bit of my ego, which is a good thing, gets solidified, that he can look at me and go, fucking slow down, Dad. And but also this hopeful slight bit of pride going, look, my dad's fucking 60 and he's absolutely destroying me over these walls and doing all of these things. And that's my ultimate aspiration for things. And when I am 70, every year we go down to this place on the south coast, and every year we go there, we have done every year, where there's a kilometre of beach. We get the surfboards out, 2 hours of surfboarding, a kilometre carrying these surfboards back, and it's really exhausting work. And I just have this picture in my head of having these 2 surfboards at 70 with my grandkids, taking them down the same beach that we've been for the last 30 years, taking them surfing and going, wow, Granddad can really, he's got the energy, he's got the focus, he can carry our boards, he can have fun with us. And I ask myself, what needs to be done now to make that a reality? And these are the things that I'm always thinking about now, because it matters right now whether I do that or not.
Fuck yeah. And this kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask you about your most recent book, Hard Stuff, Easy Life. Like, doing the hard stuff now is going to make things easier later. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't read your book, Hard Stuff, Easy Life. If there was someone to go out and read it, what's the one thing that you would want someone to take away from it? If you could say in one paragraph, like, what's one thing you wish someone would take away from that? But I know at the same time, there's probably going to be people that read it that resonate with different parts of that book. But
I think the one that comes back to us a lot is one of the principles is no one cares. And that can be looked at as very negative, because when somebody's thinking about that, they think no one cares. As in, what's the point in doing it if no one gives a shit? When what they need to look at is no one cares. Now, a lot of people that I speak to, even this week, they're afraid to go to the gym because they're afraid that they're a little bit overweight, they're not very confident, they're worried about looking stupid in front of other people in the gym, and they're worried that someone will look at them and go, this place isn't for people like you. All this narrative in their head. And what happens is most people go into the gym, they think people are staring at them, and just by knowing that they're thinking that, you've got to understand other people are the same. So they're looking at you thinking, are you looking at them? So then you have an entire room of people looking at each other thinking that, are they looking at them, when actually they're just thinking of themselves, and no one is thinking of you whatsoever, because everyone hasn't got the time to even think about what you're doing in your life because they're so consumed with theirs. That really understanding that no one cares is so freeing, because it allows you to go and do whatever the fuck you want to do with your life. Because no one does care. Everyone has so much problems, they've got so much going on, that they haven't really got time to invest anything in what it is that you're doing with yours. And those individuals that do, and you'll know this with being on social media, some people do take a vested interest in what it is that you're doing. And it's not from a place of positivity, it's a place from anger and negativity. Because you are holding up a mirror to the shit that they wish that they could do. And a lot of that is very easy to understand, that if you are actually getting people who care what it is that you're doing, congratulations, because you're doing the work. So
we've spoken about it quite a lot. If you get 100 comments on a post, right, but then you get one negative one, we seem to gravitate towards that one negative comment. Like, it's even harder when people in our life that are close to us, friends, family members, partners, aren't supporting, or we feel like they don't care because they're in our foxhole and they should be the one person that does care. What would you say to someone that is going through that, who has people close to them that they think don't care?
With regards to what it is that they're trying to do, so from a health and fitness point of view, so
just anything, could be in life, could be starting a new business, health and fitness, whatever.
So I have this a lot. Like, my wife started going to the gym, and her mum doesn't understand why, because she was from a time there where people didn't go to the gym. She cares for, it's a very different time. So a lot of the time when someone has an opinion, especially someone that you love, it is from a place of love, because the mother, the father, the person doesn't want you to change because they like who you are right now. And I think that's such an important thing, because when you do change as a person, you grow a business, you change your body, you do change as a person. And if you have a person close to you who loves you for who you are, they don't want to see you change. So what they're actually saying to you is from a place of love, because they are worried about you becoming a different person. What they don't know is that you are hopefully aiming towards becoming a better person. And that's not up to them to decide, that's up to you. So when family do have an opinion of things, one, it's the most triggering thing ever, because they are people that you've let into your life. But two, understand that most of the time it comes from a place of love.
Great answer. I have to clip that and put it on Instagram. That's a good answer, man, because I know so many people will get so much benefit out of that, because it's just...
My mum, Matt, my mum, and I talk about this from experience. So my mum, I've just booked a holiday in Turkey. They had a terrorist attack last week. I just booked a holiday. I just booked a holiday. Who are you flying with? BA. Terrible. I just bought this new thing. I heard that they were shit. This is my mum. Yeah. This is my mum. And that's just her natural persona. I'm not trying to get permission from my mum for my decisions. I'm just trying to spark conversation, and I now anticipate and expect that she's going to have something to say. My wife fucking hates it. She's like, your mum. And I was like, you're looking at this the wrong way. You're looking at it as, your mum's always got something negative to say, instead of wait to see what, let's tell mum and let's see what she has to say about it, because it doesn't affect my decision or my life whatsoever. And I think this is one thing that will change you with people who have an opinion with you online, have people in person. Their opinion doesn't affect your future at all. So actually understanding that you don't need to get that person on the same wavelength as you, because they're in a totally different direction to where it is that you want to be. And that is totally fine. You can have a difference of opinion with somebody and still be friends and still love them and still have family. And if they're none of those things, then why the fuck are you even taking that opinion on board?
Kill them with kindness, I say, mate. And like you always say, you'll never win an argument with a stranger on the internet. And a lot of the time, if there is someone giving you hate or whatever, it's just coming from a place of pain where they're at. So kill them with kindness, because they're in a much worse place than what you are. So if you're focusing on that one comment, like, you shouldn't be, because, you should be showing them love and moving on and focusing on all the people that are, supporting you along the way.
And something else I found, Matt, is if you can convert a critic, they will turn into a lifelong fan. And time and time again, I've had people who have fucking hated what it is that I've done, and I've approached it with a place of love and empathy and support, and that person has been some of my biggest supporters, even sometimes defenders of comments. And it's made me smile sometimes when someone's defended my honour, shall we say, in the comments section. And I think 5 years ago, you would have said exactly that same thing. So if you can convert a critic, they become a lifetime fan.
It's incredible, isn't it? Some people can't be saved, but some can, and it's a really cool feeling when that does happen. Just being genuine and authentic, I think, goes a long way, and people can, like we've spoken about a lot on this podcast today, is like a lot of people can only make decisions and comments and have thoughts off what their belief systems are, and you're just coming into frame of their belief systems at a point in their life. So everything that they know is being projected onto you, and it's not actually a reflection of yourself. It's more of a reflection of them, their past, their thoughts and beliefs.
And especially online, Matt, and I think this is an important thing, like from your perspective with the content that you do and the content that I do. They have been fed your content because it's good content that helps them. So somewhere along the line, they've put their hand up and said that they need help with something. So if they are commenting, and they have seen it, it's either because something's gone viral and they don't follow you and they wouldn't normally see it, or they have been following and seeing your content, and if they have done a negative content, you've probably just put a mirror up in their face that, you know, they're unhappy with where they are and something needs to change. And there is something special that you can do within that moment. You have an option of being negative and confirming their suspicions, or being positive and completely changing their mind. And I've seen this time and time again. I remember a perfect example of this 3 years ago. I was walking and I did a little video that said, you can't change the past, but you can ruin the present by worrying about the future. And someone did a long comment, said, who's this $1 PT giving stoic advice like he's Mahatma Gandhi or something like that? It was brilliant. Most brilliant response ever. And I remember seeing it and it being quite hurtful. I was like, you know, I'm at least a $2 personal trainer. But then I actually DM'd him and said, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? And he was like, not really, no, I've just found out my mum's got cancer. So you're going around saying you can't change the past, but you can ruin the present by worrying about the future. And I'm fucking worried about the future right now. So the last thing that I needed to see was your fucking post. And actually I said, I'm sorry to hear about your mum, and I'm really sorry that post triggered you. It wasn't my intent, and I really wish you well and hope, you know, take some time. You know, what's very counterintuitive right now is that you don't want to do the simple things like exercise and go for a walk and talk to people, but understand these things are essential for processing things, for keeping that energy and mindset to hopefully make it through this difficult time. And he was like, Joe, what? Thank you for that. That's what I needed today. And I was just like, imagine if I'd taken his negative comment on board and you know, ruined him, or do what most people, you know, some people do, screenshot it and put it on their stories. I'm like, you know, just approaching something from a positive mindset made a massive change today.
And that can sometimes be easier said than done, because we've all been in that situation. Well, anyone that's got reasonable success on social media, we've all been there where they catch you on a bad day and you're like, fuck this guy. You know, having something to remind yourself to be able to implement kindness is very powerful. And just not to get caught down that rabbit hole is as easy it is said than done. You just have to act upon kindness, because otherwise it ruins your day and you spend more time on it than what you should. So, yeah, kindness 100%. All the way, mate.
100%. It's not easy.
Moving on. Next episode, next segment of the podcast. Mate, you are one hell of a guy when it comes to mindset, and that's something that you pride yourself in. Now, there's a lot of bullshit that gets around on the internet, and you know, you've debunked a lot of bullshit over the years. This year is the year of the peptides, mate. What do you reckon about those? Hang on. Jay, you've been fucking in the fitness industry. I had Zach Perner on last week. I'm not sure if you listen to that podcast, but he has been going for a long time. You've been going for longer. When did you start? 2012 on Facebook?
Yeah, 2010. 2010 was
2010. Fuck, bro. That's how many years? I haven't got enough hands.
Yeah, 16.
16 years, mate. Holy shit. So talk through this isn't even the segment, but I just want you to talk through some of the things. Like, obviously, when you've been in the fitness industry for a long time, you see things come and go, right, over the years. what's like the top 10 things that you've seen that you can remember? Like cast it back as far as if it fits your macros in 2013 or whatever it was. And then the trends that come and go, just for people listening that might be feeling themselves getting sucked in to these things or seeing patterns on social media if they've been watching content for a few years.
10 waist trainers, that's one. Vibration machines.
What about fucking in the UK, the one that James Smith always used to have wars over?
Herbalife,
what was that one?
Like meal replacement, like Herbalife and everything. You know, a lot of the MLM things.
Slimming World.
Yeah, so, you know, I'll give Slimming World its dues. It's not a bad thing. It's just not it's a great business model. And there is some things that they do quite well. You know, they've simplified things down into points rather than calories. And there is a methodology to it. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I always say my mum's been doing Slimming World for 15 years. Shit. And if it worked, she'd have only been doing it for one.
That's right. Well, let's get back to the shitty ones. We don't want to focus on the good ones. That was a bad example.
Yeah, it's not a good one, but it's just I understand. Like, Christ, there's so many. I mean, and they're still going. They rear their head every single year. I mean,
Well, just recently, carnivore's gone. Like, carnivore's not really a thing as much anymore as what it was a year or two ago. Now it's peptides. Now it's.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is people are searching for the secret for success to try and do as minimal effort as possible for maximal results. And I think as well, you know, it's exciting to hear about what something that you inject from a website that you know nothing about, with a name that you can't pronounce, that you have to do some surgical positional thing that is not recommended by anyone other than a doctor, to completely transform and change your life, when you could just get some steps in, you can just do the fucking work. Now, a lot of people will get pissed off with that, because you've really got to understand that the amount of conversations that I've had, like say with carnivore and that, I can play this bingo card of responses. You know, if I say about carnivore, someone will say, well, it's like our ancestors used to eat. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, the average age of our ancestors was 35, but let's go. Oh, you know, Eskimos, you know, they don't eat carbs, and they're some of the healthiest people on the planet. Oh, nah, I mean, it's been widely shown that a lot of Eskimos suffer from depression and cardiovascular disease. You know, depression because they live in a fucking igloo, and cardiovascular disease because who knew eating lots of fat and no vegetables or micronutrients would be bad for you? I mean, mind blown. One of the things that is about peptides is that you got things, the names from like BPC 157 and TB 500, also known as the Wolverine stack, that if you take it sometime, you're going to have adamantium wrapped around your bones and you're going to be indestructible. But they say all of these things, and then you get all these anecdotal things like, I did that and I got that, or I started taking that and I got that. And it's really, really dangerous, because we're not asking about, you know, we're not saying go pop a pill or that. We're saying go and buy something on the internet that you inject into you, and hopefully it will solve a problem which you have very, very quickly without doing any work. That's what concerns me a lot with it. The next thing that concerns me is the fact that there is no real long-term body of evidence that shows that these are not detrimental to your health, because anything that produces, you know, that fixes the body, and people say, oh, it increases your growth hormone and everything. I'm like, you know, it's not a good thing to increase growths in your body by injecting things, okay? Because there's other growths in your body, such as tumours and cancers and other things, which you don't yet know about if you do. And then the final thing, to close the door on peptides, is how much do I take each day? What's the dosage? Like, I see that a lot of these companies that are promoting these things, a lot of these doctors on YouTube that are promoting these things, they're saying this does this and this does that, but they don't tell you how much of it to take, how long to take, and everything else like that. Now, you wouldn't take a supplement unless you knew the directions to take it. You wouldn't take something that benefited your life from a doctor unless you knew how much of it to take per day to get the desired result. Yet for some reason, nobody's talking about dosage, longevity, anything like that with regards to these wonderful things that apparently change your life. And what I'm saying is that the worst place to get your information from is probably the internet, because it's just going to show you stuff that you want to see. There's a big business in it at the moment because there's big, healthy profit margins. And just because someone has a doctor in their name doesn't mean that they know what the fuck they're talking about, especially online. So just approach these things with caution. I learned a long time ago, if something's too good to be true, 9 times out of 10 it is. And time tends to reign that true as well. So just be mindful.
We had this with fucking Psalms, man, back in the day, right? Everyone thought when Psalms came out, like, just on the peptides thing, to give my opinion, I think that they have great potential. I think that possibly they could be a really great thing. And I think there is some overweight, obese people that, you know, so the juice is probably worth the squeeze. It's worth the risk because they're going down a bad road. But where I get a little against them is people just are not nailing the basics. People have not learned how to control their nutrition. They're not sleeping. They're not, you know, working on their mobility, hydrating, all the building blocks that actually make you live longer and fix the problems that you are trying to fix with peptides. That's the issue. But, you know, for some people who have all those things dialed in, or if they're in a really shitty spot and they want to take the risk, I think that, you know, peptides could enhance, or they could have their potential, and maybe they won't cause issues down the track. But the thing is, the maybe there, that personally I'm not really ready to take that risk. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean, and there are different peptides. I mean, GLP-1 and other weight loss drugs. Of course, there's lots of evidence that is out for those. I'm talking about all these little random numbers and letter things that apparently solve most of life's problems. It
gets a bit worrying when people are throwing them into the Wolverine stack and all that type of shit. Like, fuck.
Yeah, and it just concerns me. And you guys understand, this is not from a place, you know, like people in the comment section on one of my posts were trying to change my mind. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I'm not like these other internet people. I want my mind changed. I'm happy to be wrong about things. I'll tell you, I was slightly wrong about TRT, and we can go into that. But I'm happy to be wrong as long as you can present the evidence. So I can actually sit down and read it and go, do you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong about GLP-1s and that because I happen to have a GP as a good friend. So I was like, so tell me, you know, probably the wrong thing to say, give me the skinny on these GLP-1s. And, you know, he explained stuff to me and I was like, you know what, that could work really, really well for this kind of person. That could be life-changing for this person. So, you know,
it's not always a fact of being on one side of the fence or the other, but social media, the way that it is, people think it's either he's fucking completely against peptides or he's 100% for them and injecting every single compound he can. Do you know what I mean? It's like, doesn't have to be like that.
If you could give me the bodies of research you can show me and there's enough studies with it, sign me up. It's fine. You know, like I'm just a little bit concerned about something that comes out like this. And you know, people say, oh, it's been out for years, but it's been underground and Big Pharma's been trying to hide it. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So that sounds like a lot of things. But, you know, going back to TRT, you know, I was like, no one needs TRT. You know, come on, just lift weights, just get enough sleep and do it all naturally. And then I had a TRT doctor on. We had a long conversation about it. And I was like, you know what? You know, I'm not saying everybody needs it. There is a massive demographic of people who, you know, who don't need it. But if you are in a situation in your life, and especially I work with guys over the age of 40, so it's a perfect demographic. But, you know, I am coaching guys who are training consistently, who are getting enough sleep, who their nutrition is on point, and they still feel terrible. And then after looking at their blood tests after 6 months, 8 months, a year of doing it, it's not going anywhere. They jump on it and they're like, it's as if like someone gave me rose tinted glasses. My life has suddenly got meaning, got purpose. I've got energy. I can play with my kids. I can train consistently. I've got this little spring in my step. And it was just that. And I tried everything else and it was that. It's just, no matter what I did, I had low tests.
Yeah.
You know,
the big thing is trying those things and actually genuinely implementing them for a long enough time, because most people don't actually try them for long enough or execute them well enough for a period of time. But if you do all those things and things still aren't, that's when we need to look into adjust, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had this, similar thing. Last year, around this time last year, I had a compressed L4, L5 in my lower back. Anybody who's experienced lower back pain, any kind of chronic pain whatsoever, knows how debilitating it is. I couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes without my leg going to sleep. I couldn't walk for longer than 5 minutes without needing to sit down. I remember watching TV programs and just being envious that I could see people standing up and talking. I had to cancel a Tough Mudder because I couldn't even walk 5 minutes, let alone run. And everything that I was doing each and every day, I was spending an hour and a half doing mobility exercises, stretching exercises, training exercises. It wasn't working. It was, but I just needed to give it enough time. And 3 or 4 months later, I started to see gradual improvements. And within 9 months, I still got those little niggles there, but I can walk for, say, an hour now, and I can stand for, say, half an hour, 40 minutes before feeling it. So there's progress there. But a lot of people that I've spoken to, they're like, oh, I've had this injection, I've had, all of this, I've been on painkillers, and I'm like, I didn't do any painkillers. And I'm like, why? And it's like, because one thing I didn't want to do was block the signal that I needed to do something. And one of the biggest problems with people with a lower back problem is that they avoid all the things that they need to do to help improve, such as going to the gym, strengthening the glutes and the lower back around it to then get those improvements. If you're avoiding the gym and you're taking painkillers to mask the pain, you have no signals or way of improving it. And that's very much like, initially with TRT. Someone will say that they're low testosterone, immediately go, right, I just need TRT, and going, well, okay, cool. Now you're taking testosterone and you're still drinking 10 pints of beer on the weekend. You haven't been to the gym in 6 months and your diet is terrible. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now you're just, a very unhealthy person with high test levels. Great. So
Yeah, Band-Aid.
Yeah. And so I'm very much pro lifestyle changes and choices first, and then as a last resort, the next thing.
And the other thing is as well, like when these things come into trend, like you've always got to be careful. I think Bitcoin's taught me the biggest lesson of that. Like when everyone's buying Bitcoin, that's when you should not be buying Bitcoin. When everyone's not talking about it, like now, I think it's at 73K USD. Now might be a time to think about buying. When nobody's talking about it, but when there's blood in the streets, like, you know what I mean? Like that's the time, not when everyone's already talking about. And when people are talking about the latest trend, I get a bit wary to be like, oh, this could be a good thing, but maybe everyone's just jumping on this through some clever marketing or whatever it may be.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, we went a bit of a roundabout, but the next segment is the fuck or suck segment. So basically what I'm going to do, Jay, is shout out a bunch of things, one-worders, in terms of building a mindset and becoming, I suppose, a more better, well-rounded individual who is going to live healthier, happier, fitter and stronger. And you've got to let me know whether it fucks or sucks. And if you want, you can give a super fuck or you can give a super suck.
Exciting.
You ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. So 3, 2, 1. Motivation. Does it fuck or suck?
Suck.
Discipline.
Super fuck.
Ooh. Just stay consistent.
I'm going to say fuck. There's context, but let's go fuck.
All right. We can elaborate on them later. Morning routines.
Fuck.
Ice baths.
Fuck to the right people.
Journaling.
Super fuck.
Meditation.
Fuck.
Therapy.
For the people that need it, super fuck.
Tough love coaching.
To the people that need it, fuck.
Positive affirmations.
That's a really tough one.
Gun to the head, mate. Fuck or suck. You should try rating these recipes. It's harder than what it looks, trust me.
I'm going to say suck, but there is context.
Okay. Manifestation.
Super suck.
Hustle culture.
Super cyan suck.
Yeah, fuck it. Work-life balance.
I'm going to say fuck when it's working.
Comfort zones.
Super suck.
And the you deserve it mindset.
Super suck.
Victim mentality.
Super suck. So yeah, super suck because it's not a good one.
Blaming genetics.
Super suck.
Waiting to feel ready.
Super suck.
And self-sabotage.
Suck.
Is there any one of those that you want to elaborate on that you think that, people should kind of look at a little bit more closely?
Being consistent, you can be walking down the wrong path, and I see lots of people that are being consistent in the wrong things. So sometimes people will be super, super consistent in something that doesn't produce any kind of value whatsoever. But sometimes it's not about telling them not to do something, because sometimes you need to go down that path to realise it wasn't the path that you want to be. So, but then that feeds back to, okay, so that was right, being consistent in the wrong things can still help. And I was like, yes, but this comes down to this thing of going, if you can listen to other people who have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, and you're willing to listen, you can save a lot of time by not going down the wrong paths and being consistent in the wrong places.
I agree. One of the big things out of that list right there that I used to think was a super fuck, now I think is a super suck, is the hustle culture. And I'm pretty sure you would agree too, Jay. For years, I would just work myself to the absolute bone. And I think it's important to be able to have that switch in you to be able to switch it on when you need to. But understanding having a massively full calendar or a giant to-do list, fuck, man, that's not a flex. If I ever see someone post on social media and they've got a massive to-do list or their calendar's full, booked out with calls for the week, I'm like, there is a smarter way to be doing this than just exchanging your time like that. Like, it kind of actually gives me the ick now, where I would have looked at that in the past and thought, wow, that's incredible, they're getting after it. I mean, let's not disrespect the work ethic and pushing and working hard, but at the same time, there's, what would you say? There's a nuance to it. How would you?
Yeah, there is.
Like that?
There is nuance. In my 20s, I used to work 7 days a week. I used to hustle and grind, and it's how I got to where I was in such a short space of time. But it was also the thing that broke me. And it's really understanding of what got you where you are today won't get you where you want to be tomorrow. And I still, if somebody's in their 20s or that, hustle your bollocks off. You haven't got a mortgage, you haven't got kids, you haven't got a wife, you haven't got responsibilities, you can make lots of mistakes, you can, fucking people say, oh, you need to get your 8 hours sleep and you need to, oh, fuck that, you're 20. Hustle your bollocks off. That's what I did, you need to do it. And it's not just for other people, it's for yourself. The thing that you're battling with for the first kind of 20 years of your life is one question that you need to ask yourself: am I good enough? Now, the reason that I can calm the fuck down a bit at 40 is that I've produced enough evidence to know that I'm good enough. I've broke world records, I've written 3 best-selling books, I've worked with 15,000 people, I've amassed millions of followers. I'm good enough. And actually, that allows me not to go into the hustle and grind and actually understand that that's not going to serve me right now. It's being smart with my time. It's being smart with my energy, not just because, I've done the work now, but because I'm 41 and I care more about spending time with my kids than how big my Instagram following is. So for really, it's getting those priorities. But once again, I wouldn't be in this position had I not done the 7 days a week, the team no sleep, the hustle and fucking grind. So I respect that at a certain point in time. And, if you expect to get everywhere or anywhere with just balancing your life and optimizing things, you're not going to fucking achieve anything.
That's right.
Whatsoever. Because you haven't got those hours in of getting fucking good at something. And that's what it is that you need to do in this life, is you need to get fucking good at things. You look at this kind of 10,000 hour rule, but, the reason I've got good at talking on camera is because I've had this camera pointed at me for over 10 years. So it's easy for me to talk to it because it's something that I've been doing every single day. But if I just switch this on once a week, and didn't do the hustle and grind, I would be shit at talking on camera. So yeah, there is an element of getting fucking good, which involves spending a lot of time, and that expertise can be greatly improved by doing a lot more of it. So that hustle and grind could be.
Yeah, I think it's a case of working your fucking ass off until you get to what you want. But then once you get there, don't just keep replacing that. You know what I mean? Because you see so many millionaires where they're like, I just want the million. And then you get the million and then they just go for the next thing and the next thing. And the ship is constantly rising with the tide. There has to be a point where you work your ass off to get what you want and then you stop, breathe. And like I always like to say, look up and out rather than down and in, and really calculate your next move and put the systems in place so you're not constantly just on a hamster wheel your entire life. Because if you're not aware of it and you just believe in the hustle grind culture, it's never going to leave. You just keep replacing it with something else.
Yeah, and I love the quote, you can't see a label when you're stuck inside the jar. So you need to spend plenty of time getting out the jar, and having a look at what label that you're projecting to the world, should we say. And so many people are in their business, in the thing, in the hustling and grinding, not actually looking out and going, what the fuck am I actually building?
Yeah, totally agree. Now we've reached the most exciting part of the podcast where we ask some fucked up questions. Now this is always a fun time to finish off and close things up on a really fun note. And I think a lot of people hang out for this time of the podcast. So I've picked out some good ones that I think we'll be able to kind of like answer together. Would you rather always have a waiter who speaks shitty English? Fuck, that's bad, man. I fucking hate that when you go to a restaurant and you can't understand what they're saying. Or would you rather every time you walk through a door, it's a push instead of a pull, or vice versa? So every door you walk through for the rest of your life is going to be the wrong push or pull? Or would you rather every time you go to a restaurant, the waiter can barely speak English where you can't understand?
I would definitely say the push-pull one. I don't mind that too much because it's just a touch repetition, not a communication problem. Lack of communication, lack of being able to be understood and implemented triggers me more than a door that is push or pull.
Is there a secret to knowing a push-pull if it hasn't got a sticker on it to tell you?
Always push first. It's less embarrassing. No, because it's less embarrassing. When you try and pull a door, you have to step backwards and it's a bigger action than pushing. So, you push and then you still got that hand, that length, that arm length to then do that and then pull. So you can kind of style it out a lot better than pulling the door.
Yeah, I get that. All right, so push instead of pull. Yeah, I got it. Because you can kind of make out as if it's like when you fall over, but then you just pretend to tie your shoelace kind of thing.
Or when you're walking down the street and you realise you're going the wrong direction and you're going to look like a twat just stopping in the middle of nowhere and then just turning around. So you have to like cross the street or...
Yeah.
I do it in London all the time.
If you could be homeless in any city of the world, which one would you be homeless in?
Homeless in any city of the world.
Wouldn't be fucking London for sure. No.
Probably...
I'd be picking from the good side.
Yeah, maybe... I mean, like the cities that I've been to and that. Oh, that's a difficult one. Probably somewhere more nearer to where you are, to be honest. I really like being in Queensland. I really enjoyed it there.
Homeless in Brisbane. Jay Alderton, ladies and gentlemen. I agree, man. I think, I don't know, I was thinking like Miami or something like that.
Oh, no, but then the trouble with Miami is there's a lot of obviously drugs and everything else like that, and I'd be a bit more concerned. I think
you turn into a junkie on the fentanyl.
I'd feel a bit more optimistic in, I've only been to Australia once, but I really liked the culture and the people around. Well, I think one thing that blew my mind was going to it. I was in Queensland, I think, and I was at a shopping mall, and a little shopping place that we would call equivalent to Tesco's in the UK. One of the managers got on the mic and said, "Hey, can everyone stop for a minute?" And I was like, firstly, that would never happen in the UK because everyone would not stop whatsoever. Because like, who the fuck is this person? And they said, "I just want to let you know that our, I'm paraphrasing this, but our till person, Timmy, is going to the Australian Army next week, and I just wanted to give him a massive round of applause." And everyone in the shop just was like this. And I was like, fucking this place is awesome. And it's just that, it's just that community. I was like, that would never happen in the UK. No one would even think about doing that, and everyone stopped to pay attention and to clap and to give him, well done, mate, all the best. And I was just like, yeah, I'll be homeless there.
Yeah, it's not a bad spot. I mean, it's sad to say, and we're not going to get political on this podcast, especially at this this time of it. But that's something that is the Australian way, or it used to be very strong in the Australian way of always helping people out and leaning on people of your own origin, I suppose you'd say. So it is a good place, and it still is. Would you rather get stuck at a red light every time for the rest of your life, or become a loaf of bread 24 hours once a year? Fuck.
Traffic lights, I don't mind because I'm listening to my music, I'm listening to a podcast, and provided that I've got plenty of time, which I normally set myself to do things, especially with travel, then I'm good. Bring it on. I'm not, whatever. If I'm listening to...
You don't mind the red lights?
Fuck. No, not at all. I think it's just the mindset around it. It's just like, it blows my mind. When I go to London, I remember last week going to London and going to the London Underground and seeing this woman with 2 kids barge the door open, almost lose her child's arm to try and get in a train that went, and then 1 minute later, another one came. And I was just like, whatever that was that I saw, I do not want to be that rushed to get to somewhere when I still have another 50 years left on the planet. And it's the same thing with going to the plane. Everyone's barging in. I'm like, well, we're going to sit down for hours and get to the same place. What is
it with people that stand up on the plane? Do they do that in the UK? Is that like a worldwide thing where the plane fucking hits the tarmac and everyone stands up before it's ready? Like, imagine if you got off on a plane and everyone just systematically did it where they got off row by row. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, like, I was only concerned about it when I had young kids, like when Eliza and Archie were babies. I'm obviously concerned about making sure, but most people are okay when a young child is the ultimate plane hack. You get more leg room, you get that off first. It's always good. But now, like, if I'm traveling with my wife, I'm so relaxed. I'm like, just go. I'll be the last person off the plane. What's the rush?
Yeah.
And I think, as you were saying, like, smell the flowers. I've spent so much of my life head down trying to get to the next level and not looking up and seeing the view. And actually, same with the traffic. It's like, it's not just me that's in traffic, it's every other fucker. So I can't control what's happening right now. And if I'm stressed, it's because I left my house too late. So that's on me. So, so what's the point in being angry at other people when it was my decision to leave late? And if I left early, and I've had this before, and there's traffic all the way up, it's outside of my control, and why should I fucking worry about it? And I had to undo a lot of this because I was in the British Army for 7 years, and they were very much 5 minutes is on time, 5-2 is on time is late. And I'm a massive fan of respecting people's time, and once again, if things outside of your control happen, you just got to let them know. Go, I'm sorry, I left early, I'm in traffic, it's not a lot I can do. My sat-nav says I'll be here at that time, I'll try and make it up on the way. And if that person's not happy about that, it's like...
Or you could just turn into a loaf of bread for 24 hours and run a few red lights.
There's a lot more concerns with that, though, because someone, bread's fucking awesome.
Bread makes you fat, mate, so you won't get eaten.
Well, that's it. I'd worry about being eaten, and I'd worry what I'd have to think about as a loaf of bread. I'd be more worried about the things that go through my head.
We got 2 more quick ones. This one here, I think I've asked this one to my co-host Wes once, but I'll ask it again. Would you rather have the hiccups repetitively, like every 10 seconds, or an 8 out of 10 headache all day for the rest of your life? Fuck, man. Wasn't there a guy that did have the hiccups and he was stuck with them?
Yeah. I would say hiccups because you can still think clearly with hiccups. They're a pain in the arse, but an 8 out of 10 headache pretty much for the rest of your life debilitates pretty much everything that I want to do with my life. I can manage it with hiccups, but if it's one or the other, it's definitely going to be the hiccups.
Now, I know you like a cage fight. If you could make any 2 people fight in the world, no rules, don't have to be fighters, in a cage, who would they be? Jay Alderton is organising this fight for the world to see. Who's it going to be? Are you going to choose professional fighters, or are you going to throw Donald Trump and someone, Kim Jong-un?
No, it's going to be a shit fight. Like people say, I'd love to see so-and-so fight, but they're not fighters. It'd be shit.
Yeah.
And this is really nuanced unless you actually understand fighting. But first person would be Fedor Emelianenko, as Fedor Emelianenko versus John Jones in their prime. Would fucking love to see that. Because, for years and years, I remember watching Fedor Emelianenko. And for those of you who are not into fighting, imagine a guy that you meet down the pub with a bald head that pretty much looks like he sinks 8 pints there. That's what Fedor Emelianenko looks like, and he's one of the greatest, most talented fighters that's ever existed on the planet. I remember watching his training video, and he starts with doing pull-ups, and he'll do 200 pull-ups before he starts his day, and then he'll just get a hammer and hit this tire for 2 hours. This guy is built differently. He looks like he's been picked from the pub. He has no emotion whatsoever, and he destroys pretty much everything that stands in front of him.
That's what you want. Like you said, you don't want to just be throwing Donald Trump and someone else in there because,
you want to be...
You don't know, but you want something that's going to be entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a massive fan of grappling and jiu-jitsu, so both John Jones and Fedor is a Sambo world champion, so that's very much throws and grappling. It would be an absolutely epic fight.
Well, let's just go one real quick one. If you had to choose 2 non-fighters, who would they be?
2 non-fighters,
just like celebrities that most people would know.
Oh, interesting. Do you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger actually fight. In his prime
against like Ronnie Coleman or some shit.
Yeah, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger versus who's another like just big motherfucker who you never saw fight, but always was like, yeah, I wouldn't like to get in a fight with him. Steven Seagal. There we go. Let's put both of them in a cage and see who comes out.
I would like to watch that fight. That'd be sick. Back in their prime, right?
Yeah, in their prime. Yeah.
Hopefully the listeners have got a lot out of this. The main takeaway for me is to tap into the subconscious mind, and hopefully we've given people the tools, the motivation, and the resources to be able to kind of stop relying so much on motivation and start leaning on discipline. And we've given them some actionable items that they can implement right now. If I'm thinking about it, I'm like, take out that pen and paper and do what Jay said. But if someone's listening to this right now, and the question I asked at the start, they know what they should be doing, but they're still not. If you can just give some parting words to them, what's the one thing that they need to hear to be able to implement it that we haven't said already?
If you're around my age range, so let's say 40 years of age, there is going to be something that is 100% going to happen, and hopefully going to happen. In about 40 years' time, you're going to be bedridden, breathing your last breath on life support, and you will have maybe a week of reflection, and you'll be reflecting on your life. You'll be reflecting on the things that you did. You'll also be reflecting on the things that you didn't. And then picture this, that someone from the future comes in, takes you into the past, back to your 40s, and you can whisper something in your 40-year-old self's ear. What would it be? And it would probably be, don't worry about all the stuff, it's all going to work out fine. You need all those things that you should have done, fucking do. Don't worry about other people, because most people in that age range that are on their deathbed, and there's actually a book on this, the biggest thing that they say is that I wish I'd done this. I wish I could tell myself to just go for it. Regret is going to be the worst thing that you're going to experience. And what I hope, that when I hopefully get to that mid-80s, I'm on my bed, that I can look at my family, I can look at all the things that I've done, and I can think, fuck yeah, that was epic. See you later. And that is a reality, because I am living my life like that. I'm like, oh, fuck it, just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to be fine. You're not going to die. And so what I said to you, Matt, before we started this podcast is, you can always go back to shearing sheep, and it's something that I'm super, super mindful, because behind me, in fact, I'll get it up here, is a pound, and I've put it in a little trophy because back in 2019, that is all I had to my name. I had to sell my shares in my gym, which I put hundreds of thousands of pounds into, and had to start again. And my exit from the gym was that. That is exactly what the solicitors gave to me at a Costa coffee shop when we finished all the contracts to separate as businesses. And I was like, right, I've got £1 to my name. I've got, about 2 months worth of finances to start again and rebuild my business from scratch. And that's exactly what I did. And that year that I started again was one of my most successful years. So I'm absolutely fine about starting again because I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt. And there's this quote on the internet where they say, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And it would be, well, I would do this, I would do that, I would do that. And the reality is it's okay to fuck up and fail. In fact, I think that's the biggest thing that we're scared of, that we lose everything and we go back to £1 to our name. And I've just proven that that's absolutely fine to do because you can get back up. And the lessons that I learned from that were some of the most powerful lessons ever with life. And you don't learn the good shit in what to do from winning, you do it from fucking up and failing.
Mate, I think that's a great way to close out the podcast. If people are to find Jay Alderton, where do they find you, mate?
So Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Instagram is probably my most active one, at Jay Alderton. And I always say, if there's something that really resonated with you on this podcast, just fire us a DM and let us know which.
Yeah, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for all the wisdom bombs, mate. It's absolutely incredible to sit down and soak it all up and just really reflect and trying to be a better person each and every time we have a conversation. So, mate, thank you once again for joining us on episode 10 of the Fuck or Suck podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, look out, episode 11. It's going to be an absolute cracker, and we can't wait to see you there.